Come on, Mom, she ruins the vibe. It's a road trip, not a charity. I don't want her around. The words hit like gravel on skin. They weren't shouted. They were tossed, casual, practiced, a tone my sister uses when she wants something ugly to sound reasonable. Laughter rustled through the speakerphone like a bag of chips being crumpled. Someone hummed agreement. Someone else said my name like it was a problem to solve. Sometimes the worst pain isn't loud. It's the way a room keeps moving without you. It's the calendar squares you don't get to fill. It's watching the family chat rename itself to Road Trip 25, while your icon sits there like a forgotten suitcase by the door. Hi everyone, my name is Arden Hale. 27, the quiet one who remembers birthdays, the one who drives people to the airport at 4 a.m., the one who takes the photos and gets cropped out later. I learned early that silence can be both a bruise and a weapon. I also learned paperwork never laughs at you. Don't take it personally, Mom added in the syrupy tone she uses to frost a knife. Your sister just wants this trip to be drama-free. Drama-free. That's what they call it when your existence is the plot twist nobody wants. I stared at the open suitcase on my bed, the new sunscreen, the neatly rolled shirts I'd bought on sale. The ceiling fan clicked like a metronome for humiliation. Beyond the window, Karachi's heat pressed its palm to the glass. Even the neighbor's mango tree seemed to hold its breath. Be a team player, Dad texted later. Sit this one out. I typed sure, and deleted it. Typed, okay, and deleted that too. I put the sunscreen back in a drawer. The drawer stuck, then gave as if everything in my life required just a little extra force to close. Here is where most people cry. I didn't. I poured water. I listened to the glug settle in the glass. I set the phone face down, screen black and starless. I felt the old ache rise, the ache of being the spare chair at every table. Then I went to the hall closet. On the top shelf, behind a blanket nobody uses, is a navy folder with a worn brass corner. Inside, a deed with my name on it, stamped and notarized, the address printed in patient serif letters. My sister calls it her house. My parents call it the family place. The county calls it something else, and so do I. Asset. If my presence ruined her trip, my absence would change her destination. I laid the deed on the kitchen table like a card no one remembered I was holding. The AC hummed. A thin crack of light slid under the door as the sun finally lowered its voice. I dialed a number I'd saved for later. It started to ring. The realtor's voice was smooth, practiced, like someone who's heard it all before. So, you're saying the property is yours alone? No co-signers, no secondary owners. Yes, I said, steady, my thumb pressing the deed flat against the table. My name. My signature. My payments. Just me. He chuckled softly, impressed. Good for you. At your age, that's rare. Let's talk listing strategy. Listing strategy. Those words were music. Sharper than any apology, clearer than any family, we didn't mean it. My sister didn't want me around? Fine. Let's see how she liked being locked out of the house she claimed like a birthright. I closed my eyes and pictured her. Bags tossed in the hall, shoes scattered, her perfume staining the curtains. Rent-free, responsibility-free, entitlement heavy as humidity. For years I let her live there because Mom said, she's just getting on her feet. But her feet had been planted for years, sucking roots deep into soil she never watered. No. The soil was mine. The walls, the title, the future. Mine. I walked through the house that night barefoot. The tiles clicked under my steps, echoing against furniture that wasn't mine, memories that weren't mine. Her laughter still lingered in the corners like mildew. I opened her fridge, half-empty wine bottles, imported cheese, things I never bought because I budgeted while she indulged. I wasn't angry, I was cold. Cold enough to notice the dust on the ceiling fan she never cleaned, the unpaid utility bills shoved behind a vase, the sticky ring on the counter where something sweet had dried. That's the thing about betrayal. It makes you see everything sharper. I picked up a stray sweater she left on the couch, designer of course, and folded it neatly before dropping it into a donation bag. One bag became two. Two became three. By midnight the house was less hers and more mine. When dawn cracked open, painting the sky in bruised oranges and grays, I stood at the window. Outside, children laughed on their way to school. A dog barked at nothing. The city stretched, alive and restless. I texted the realtor. List it. Today. Her reply came fast. Consider it done. The satisfaction wasn't fiery, it was surgical. A quiet cut, precise and final. That evening my phone buzzed. A family group chat message lit up the screen. Made it to the first stop. Wish you were here, red heart. I stared at the emoji. A heart from people who just removed mine like a seatbelt before impact. I typed nothing. Instead I imagined their return. Suitcases in the hallway, smiles fading, keys refusing to fit locks. And in that silence I smiled. But silence doesn't last. Because 2 weeks later, a knock rattled my door, and when I opened it my parents stood there, storm in their eyes. Arden. Open the door wider. Dad's voice wasn't a request. It was an order sharpened by years of being obeyed. Mom stood half a step behind him, her lips pressed so tight they looked like a scar. They weren't smiling. They weren't carrying bags of love from a trip. They carried the weight of something else. Entitlement dressed as fury. I didn't move. I leaned on the doorframe instead, the cool wood pressing against my arm. What's going on? My voice was calm, too calm, it made Mom blink. You know exactly what's going on. She stepped forward, her perfume sickly sweet, filling the entryway like smoke. How could you do this to your sister? She called us sobbing, saying the locks were changed, the realtor sign was up. She called you sobbing? I let the words hang, my eyebrow raised. Interesting. Because she never called me. Not once. Dad's jaw clenched. That house was for her. Everyone knew it. Everyone. That word again. Everyone but me. Everyone except the one who paid the down payment, who worked double shifts, who signed the deed while her sister signed bar tabs. No, Dad, I said, and my voice surprised even me, measured, precise, final. The house was mine. The county knows it. The bank knows it. The only people who pretend otherwise are standing in front of me right now. Mom's eyes narrowed. You've humiliated us. Do you know how it looks? Our daughter thrown out onto the street, while her own sister betrays her. That word, betray, twisted through me. Betrayal wasn't what I'd done. Betrayal was leaving me out of trips, out of photos, out of family itself. Betrayal was calling me drama, while living in walls I bought. I let the silence stretch until even Dad shifted. The wind outside rattled the leaves like impatient applause. I didn't betray her, I said softly. I simply stopped sponsoring her. Dad's face reddened. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like it made him more dangerous. Arden, undo this. Call the realtor. Fix it. Or else. Or else. I almost laughed, but the sound came out like a sigh. Or else what? You'll cut me out? You already did. For a moment no one spoke. The world shrank to the hum of the fridge behind me, the smell of Mom's perfume, the twitch in Dad's jaw. Then Mom spat it like venom. We're ashamed of you. I didn't flinch. I simply looked past them into the gathering dusk. Ashamed of me? That was the best they had. Behind their words I could already see the real reason they'd come. Not shame, not disappointment, fear. Fear that the daughter they dismissed had found a lever big enough to move them. And I wasn't done pulling. They lingered in my doorway like they owned it, as if volume and posture could bend deeds and signatures into submission. But when neither worked, Dad finally stepped back, his voice dropping into something quieter, more dangerous. You think you've won, Arden? You don't know the half of it. That house was more than bricks. It was family property. Generations. You don't just sell history for spite. History. That word made my throat burn. Because history was exactly what they'd rewritten every time they erased me from it. Road trips, Christmas dinners, graduations where my seat was always the extra one. History had never been mine to share. It was mine to survive. I crossed my arms, steady. Funny. When it came time to pay for that history, no one lined up to help. Suddenly it was only mine. Convenient, isn't it? Mom's eyes darted, sharp and desperate. Your sister doesn't deserve this humiliation. She's telling everyone what you did. Do you want to be known as the bitter one? The jealous one? There was the script. Whenever they couldn't control me, they rewrote me. Bitter, jealous, ungrateful. Words like cages. But I wasn't stepping inside this time. I took a slow breath. You can call me whatever you want. But when the realtor's pen hits paper, it won't matter. Labels don't pay mortgages. Money does. The silence after that was thick, suffocating. For once they had no retort. The evening sun was dropping lower, streaking red through the blinds, making their faces look older, sharper. Finally, Dad muttered, "We'll fix this. Don't think this is over." He tugged Mom's elbow and together they retreated, their anger trailing behind like exhaust fumes. I shut the door, the click echoing like a gavel. Alone again, I leaned against the wood, chest heaving, but not from fear. From clarity. They weren't fighting for my sister. They were fighting for control. The house had been leverage, a leash disguised as generosity. And now with it gone they had nothing to dangle. I slid down to the floor, knees pulled tight, and let the quiet settle. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Messages, no doubt from the family group chat, the same space where I'd been made invisible. I didn't look. Instead, I opened my notes app and wrote one line. Freedom doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with slammed doors. The words steadied me. But deep down I knew this storm wasn't done. Because parents who lose their grip don't retreat, they regroup. And I could already feel the rumble of their next move, waiting just beyond the horizon. 2 days passed before the storm broke again. I was sipping coffee on my porch, the realtor's open house sign already shining in the front yard, when a familiar car rolled up. My sister stepped out, sunglasses on, shoulders squared like she was marching into battle. She didn't knock, she barged. "You've lost it, Arden." Her voice carried through the hall like broken glass. "You really think selling the house makes you powerful? All it does is prove you're pathetic." Pathetic. That word lingered, but not the way she wanted. It sounded weak on her tongue, like she was trying to convince herself. I set my coffee down slowly, deliberately. "Do you know what pathetic is? Living in a house you never paid for and still believing it's yours." Her cheeks flushed, the mask slipping. "Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this. Everyone thinks you've gone too far." I walked closer, the air between us hot, electric. "Everyone already left me out. Remember? This is me going too far." "No, this is me finally catching up." Her hand tightened on her designer bag. "You'll regret this." The words should have sounded like a threat. Instead, they felt like a promise I was daring the universe to keep. I tilted my head. "The only regret I have is letting it go on this long. You treated my kindness like it was endless. It isn't. Consider this my final donation." She faltered then, her lips parting, eyes wet with something she'd never admit was fear. She spun, storming out, slamming the door so hard the windows shook. I exhaled, a strange mix of triumph and grief twisting inside me. Triumph because the house was no longer her fortress. Grief because it had come to this, blood against blood, family-turned-battlefield. As her car screeched away, I picked my coffee back up. It was cold now, bitter. But I sipped it anyway. Because sometimes bitter is the taste of truth. And as I swallowed it down, I realized, they weren't done with me. But neither was I done with them. The retaliation didn't take long. By the next morning, my inbox overflowed, emails from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, uncles, even a distant aunt from Florida. Each message carried the same tone, rehearsed like a choir. "How could you do this to your sister? Family is everything. You're breaking us apart." Breaking us apart? I almost laughed. We'd been cracked for years. I was just the first one to stop pretending. By noon, Dad called. His voice was stern, heavy with authority he thought still worked on me. "Arden, you've embarrassed us. Take the house off the market. Do it quietly and we'll forget this ever happened." I let the silence stretch, long enough for him to think maybe the line had dropped. Then I spoke, calm, deliberate. "I'm not interested in forgetting anymore." He snapped. "You ungrateful girl, after everything we've done." I cut him off, my voice low but steady. "Everything you've done? You mean leaving me out, mocking me, calling me the burden? You don't get to rewrite this now." There was a sharp inhale on the other end, followed by the dead click of disconnection. That night I drove by the house. The realtor's sign gleamed beneath the streetlight, bold, undeniable. For the first time in years, the place looked like mine. Not because of possession, but because I finally had the courage to let it go. I parked across the street, watching shadows move inside. My sister packing, no doubt, her empire crumbling box by box. A pang of pity tugged at me, but it dissolved quickly. Pity had been my prison. Tonight I was free. When she stepped onto the porch with a suitcase, her eyes met mine through the windshield. She froze, then narrowed her gaze, venom flickering in the dark. She didn't wave. Neither did I. Instead, I started the car, the hum of the engine drowning out everything. Her glare, my doubts, even the whispers of family shame. As I drove away, the house shrank in the rear view. For once, I didn't look back. But deep inside, I knew the battle wasn't over. It was only shifting ground. The ground shifted quicker than I expected. 2 nights later, I came home to find my parents waiting again. This time on my porch steps as if they owned the concrete. No words at first, just their silhouettes in the glow of the streetlight. Dad spoke first, voice hoarse. "You've turned your back on us." I unlocked the door without answering. They followed me inside anyway, the audacity thick as smoke. Mom set her purse on my table, her eyes scanning the room like she was inspecting damage. "You've made enemies in your own bloodline, Arden. Is that what you wanted?" I turned slowly, heart pounding but voice calm. "I wanted honesty. For once." Dad's fists clenched. "Selling that house. Do you even understand what you've done? Your sister is ruined. People are talking." I met his glare head-on. "People have always talked. About me. About how I wasn't enough, wasn't wanted. Now they'll talk about something else. How I finally stopped being your doormat." The words cracked the air. Mom flinched just barely, but it was enough. For a long, jagged moment, the only sound was the ticking clock on my wall. Then Dad's voice dropped low. "You'll regret this, Arden. Families don't forgive this kind of betrayal." I stepped closer, my shadow cutting across theirs. "Maybe not. But I can forgive myself, for once." Their eyes widened, not expecting that answer. They left without another word, slamming the door behind them. The house rattled, but I stood still, breathing in the silence. I wasn't trembling anymore. For the first time in years, the storm wasn't inside me. It was outside, circling, furious, where it belonged. And I knew part 8 was coming. The reckoning, the closure. The reckoning came not with shouting, but with paperwork. 2 weeks later, the house sold. The final signatures dried like inked scars, and the funds landed in my account. Clean, undeniable, mine. The realtor handed me the envelope with a smile. "Congratulations," she said as if she understood what it meant to me. I drove past the house one last time. Empty now, windows hollow, curtains gone. No laughter, no perfume clinging to the walls. Just a structure, stripped of entitlement, ready for its next life. My sister wasn't there. She'd already scattered to a friend's couch, her throne reduced to suitcases. That night my parents returned. Not storming, not screaming, pleading. They stood in my doorway, smaller than I'd ever seen them. Mom's voice cracked. "Arden, your sister has nowhere to go. Can't you help her? Just until she finds her footing." The old me, the one who folded her sweaters, the one who drove her places, the one who paid while she played, would have caved. But I wasn't that Arden anymore. Kept my tone gentle, steady. I gave her years of footing. She chose to stand on my shoulders and call it her ground. Now she'll learn what the floor feels like. Dad's face hardened. "You've made yourself an enemy of your own family." I exhaled almost softly. "No. I've simply stopped being their servant." They stared at me as if seeing a stranger. Maybe they were. I closed the door slowly, firmly. Click. The sound echoed like a final chord. Later, I sat on my balcony, city lights blinking in the distance. The air was cool, honest, unweighted. I thought about betrayal, about silence, about the moment a person chooses themselves over being chosen last. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't erased. I was free. And in that freedom, I whispered to the night as if the house, my parents, and even my sister could hear. "You wanted me out of the picture. Congratulations. I've drawn a new one without you."